Good morning and welcome to the Student Hub Live. My name's Karen Foley and I'm going to be presenting all day a fantastic lineup for you. Now, the Student Hub Live is an online interactive event from the Open University, and we're hoping that there are some new students here today. There might be some current students as well, but everybody is welcome. If you missed part of today's programme, you can also watch it available on the catch-up, and we have a Student Hub Live YouTube channel with heaps of information that you can find out all about study at the Open University and about the breadth and depth of our curriculum. Today's programme this morning focuses on moving on up. So what we're going to be talking about is students coming to the Open University from the first time, students moving up from access modules. We're going to be talking about level 1 and 2 and what makes a difference there, and also take a look at study intensity, because some students choose to study full-time at the Open University or take overlapping modules, and we've got some great advice about that. So that's this morning's programme. This afternoon we've got a showcase from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, and we're going to be introducing some of the new modules in the undergraduate and postgraduate curriculum. Now, you can find out all about the lineup on today's programme on the website studenthub.live.open.ac.uk to find out more. So, we have a range of ways that you can connect with us. You will see the chat box and you can type anything in there. You can tell people what you've had for breakfast, which modules you're studying, where you're from, and ask questions to our panel in the studio. You can also engage with us on Twitter, and the hashtag is StudentHubLive18, and we have an email address if there's anything that you'd like to ask outside of the show. We can get back to you, and that email is studenthub@open.ac.uk. Now, bringing all of your comments into the studio are HJ and Priya. Welcome, and how is everyone today?
Bright and early today, everyone is. Yeah, we've got Mark and Kim. They've joined us bright and early, so looking forward to answering any questions and any queries. So lovely to have so many people with us today.
I think this will be a good event as well, because we're just all finishing, wrapping up. Some people are not too sure what to do. Davin's told me that he wasn't sure what to do, so he's decided to write a blog, and he shared a link, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Lots of tips there, so if there's anything you want to share in the chat, just post it in there and we'd love to have a look. In the chat, pretty much anything goes. If you just like to talk about the sessions or how you're feeling or what modules you're doing, we'd love to hear about it. And there's also a help tab as well, so if you have any technical questions, just pop them in there. But yeah, we're really excited to get chatting, and our guests love all the questions you have for them as well, so feel free just to post in the box.
Yeah, definitely.
And I hear Davin's also cooked a fruit loaf now because he's got a bit more time, which is another important thing. So make sure you've got plenty of cake and tea and coffee while we have the programme. You can nip away if you want to, and as I said, you can catch up a bit later if you'd like to. Priya, you work for the student support team at the Open University, and it's your first time here at the Student Hub Live. Tell us what you do in your day job.
So I'm a senior student support advisor. Used to work within arts, but now I've joined the wonderful psychology and social science. So absolutely loving that. Quite difference in the curriculum, but all still fun, really exciting to be involved. So if anyone's got any questions, do let me know.
Brilliant. And Priya's one of the people that if you call the student support team in that particular area, you'll speak to a lovely, helpful person like her, and she can answer some of the questions today. But as I said before, if there are things that you'd like to ask separately, then you can email us. So we have some widgets here, or interactive tools, that we would like you to fill in. If you haven't already, we'd like to know where you are in the UK, which level you're studying, so whether that's access level 1, 2, 3 or postgraduate, how you're feeling today, and also which best describes your area of study. Now, these multi-choice questions, you just select on the item that applies, and then you can return your results, and you'll also see what everyone else says. In terms of the Wordles, where we say things like, how are you feeling today, there are 3 options. Now, you need to put 3 things in, otherwise your results won't submit. But you can just put a full stop in if you can only think of 1 or 2, and then your results will send also. And we'll take a look at how you're feeling in just a moment. So as I said, today we've got a very exciting programme, and I hear that there's some students who are also finishing their studies. And what we wanted to look at first was what happens now? What is the Open University doing with all those exams that you've worked so hard preparing for, all of those EMAs that you've been submitting, and what happens between now and you get your results, and why it takes so long? And joining me to discuss the whole idea of moving on is Isabella Henman, who is a regular at Student Hub Live and who works with me on the online sessions in Adobe Connect. So Isabella, everyone's been working really hard, and then they're like, well, why is the Open University taking so long? You know, what are you doing with all of our assignments and exams and things? So you've been doing some things with those.
Indeed,
I thought it would be really useful to sort of fill students in on what happens, and also how vigilant, I guess, the whole process is.
Yeah, well, we actually have quite a strict set of processes. So I'll just take you through a little bit of the detail. So what happens is, obviously, you submit. After that time, those of us who are doing the marking, we get the marking scheme, which is what we would like as the module team people to have answered. We all then mark the same scripts, a set of sort of 4 or 6 of them, and then have a discussion, because there might be some things where we're going, well, the marking scheme says this, but a lot of people are interpreting it this way. Is that okay? Is that not okay? So then we agree, and then we go off and do the marking. And we have quite a tight turnaround. Sometimes it's somewhere between 7 and 14 days. But then we submit all of our marks as markers, and then they go and they all have to be standardised and checked and all those kind of things. And then the external examiner has to come in and pull in a certain one, and they have to check, well, okay, Karen said this, Karen's got this mark. Do I think this is actually meets the benchmarks and the learning outcomes of the module? And does the assessment meet that? So it's not just whether or not as a student you've done things, but did we actually do it correctly as a module team as well? So then eventually they're all gathered all together, it all gets uploaded, and then you get your results, which is the bit that hopefully everybody is looking forward to.
Yeah, but it's a different sort of process, isn't it? Because those examinable things, they come with a lot less feedback than students will be used to seeing. But also, often they're asking quite a fundamentally different thing of students. And for that reason, they're more challenging. And for that reason, often students might get slightly lower grades. And it can be difficult, I guess, sometimes to make sense of something, especially if it's like an EMA and you think, well, I've been submitting these long things. What's so different about this long thing?
Well, one of the things we talked about when we were doing the sessions online is that you get to know, your tutor gets to know you as you're going through the modelling, and they know if you say something, this is sort of the things you mean, but the person who's marking has no idea who you are. All that they get to go on is what you've written on that piece of paper or that submitted on that document. So you have to be incredibly clear, and sometimes the students may have known what they meant in their heads, but if that's not what's written down, if they've used the wrong words, if they got muddled up or they've missed something out, sometimes when you're reading you can think there's a word missing there. I can tell there's a word missing there, but I can't assume that it's the correct word. So it's very much, we have to be, for the idea of the vigilance that you were talking about earlier and the quality assurance, we have to mark exactly what's there. We can't assume anything, because that wouldn't be fair, because one person might have said, well, they meant that, they probably mean this, whereas somebody else might have a slightly different interpretation.
So for some students who might think, well, the reason why I've got this score is, one, because my tutor hasn't marked it, who really understands and gets me. But also, you know, they might think, well, there is I mean, marking is a big thing, you know, that everyone submits it around a similar sort of time. They all get divvied out across university. But I think it's really important that students know that there are these sort of procedures in place, because it can, you know, be easy. Some of those, for example, are if students do incredibly well in one area and maybe they're not so well in the other area, and then they might be re-looked. And so there are all these processes just to ensure that there are cross-checks and things going on.
And in actual fact, if for instance I had 70 to mark, about 15 of those somebody else would have marked, different people, so we all have different things. This sort of this second marking district, not the same person marks the second one, so they compare those, and if there's any differences, then they look at why there might be a differences. Is there a difference in the interpretation or something? And hopefully everybody is on the same page at the end, because that's the thing. Often, as I said, when you're reading it, you can see, sometimes you can think, I know what you were thinking, but that wasn't what you've written. But you just can't do that, because it's the same as an exam, the same as anywhere else. We really can only take what's on the paper. And I can see things sometimes, I think, I bet you're going to kick yourself when you said that. So, I mean, the biggest thing is it's a bit late for those of them who've done it, but make sure you answer the question that's written, not the one that you want. Don't write something else just because you want to.
Well, it's a bit late for that now, Isabella.
I know,
so what can students do then? Say they have submitted. It's a nice time now to reflect on things.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, you know, when you're getting the paper back, with less feedback than you would normally get. How would you recommend that students might start to make sense of that, might start to sort of say, okay, this is what's happened, how can I take away something useful from this, bearing in mind I've had a more complex question, and bearing in mind my feedback is a lot more limited. You're having to make a lot more interpretations, but equally, I guess it's one of those fundamental things that EMAs and exams are a thing that is quite different. How do you recommend students then internalise what they've learned?
Well, obviously, everybody will look at the mark they've got, and the kind of feedback that you'll get, not in exams but in the EMAs, is you'll get how you've met certain learning outcomes. So it will be hasn't met, not quite met, just met. Also, they're demonstrated, not met. demonstrated or well demonstrated, and there's different criteria, and depending on the module that might be sort of a different percentage of marks. So have a look at that. If you see one where you've not quite demonstrated it, go back and check which of the questions have those learning outcomes, and then see, because then that does give you an idea, because you don't get the precise one. But go back, have a look. Often people submit and they go, that's it, don't want to look at it again, not interested. But in order to help you, go back and have a look. Once you get your results, go, okay, so I got 50 to 65% boundary on that question. Can I go back with my books and see what else I could have looked at? Have a look at the learning outcomes. If it told you to do something particular, did you actually demonstrate that? Go back and look at the feedback from the TMAs. Was there something that you persistently made errors with? Just have a look on it. And then reflect and then think, right, which things did I find most difficult? Did I find it difficult writing long questions? Did I find it most difficult finding the actual pieces of factual information? Did I find it difficult spelling words correctly? Did I find it difficult working out what the correct terminology was? How am I going to improve? Because most people, not everybody, because a lot of people have been doing B presentations as well, but those people that are doing J, i.e. the ones that start in October, September, October, they tended to finish in June. So you've got this lovely break in the summer where you might want to go, no, I don't want to do any study. Or you could actually go, right, in a slightly more low-key way, let me have a look through the bits again. What bit did I find more difficult? Or what study skills did I find tricky? Because actually the study skills, when you get the idea of finding correct information, knowing what questions mean, knowing what process words are, that kind of thing, you can actually apply them to all sorts of different things. I bang on about it to my students all the time. I bang on about it to you, about this study skills. If you get those ideas right in your head, then it really, really can help long term.
Yeah, no, I know. And we've got a fabulous range of things that people can do. One is the editing masterclass. We're going to tell you all about that in a minute. But let's see what everyone thinks they're going to do now that they've finished their EMA. And sorry if you haven't had an EMA and you're still on one of those February starts and slogging away over the summer months. But for those of you who have, let's see what you had to say you were going to do when you'd finished your EMA. Okay, celebrate is the key word here. Oh, some lovely things. Learn a new recipe, have a break, bake a cake, think about a module, still revise, tidy my desk, a very important thing. Prepare for the next module, continue to study, holiday, volunteer, work, do another, watch TV, cook a yummy dinner, study deferred module, catch up on sleep, relax, rest, wait, consider options, conference. Oh, so there's so many things that people are going to do. And so many of those are nice treat things like sleep, walk, things that people probably haven't been doing much of late. Now that's really, really good. Let's talk then about this whole idea about what people can do and how they might reflect over the summer. Because, I mean, when I was studying, and still actually over the summer, I always meet the summer and think, oh, I'm going to go and sit in the garden and I'm going to read these things, I'm going to write some things. And then at the end of the summer, I sometimes wonder why it didn't happen. But I know that our students are a lot more diligent than that. So there's a whole range of things that people can do over the summer. But you said take a look at yourself and think about what skills and things. Now that all sounds very good and ideal, but how can students sort of start to do that? And sort of what would you recommend they use as a sort of way of thinking about things? Because there's so many things and it's almost a hard thing to know. And it's, again, sometimes looking forward and saying, well, what really matters? Do I really need to know how to mind map? Or is it more important that I do this? How can students prioritise?
Well, one thing you could do is you could go back to the beginning of the course and see, did you set yourself any goals for that? Or have a look, for instance, a lot of the online modules or some of the others have a study calendar where you get to tick things off. Were there certain bits that you didn't tick off? Was there a reason? For instance, did you lose time? Did you expect to use the Christmas holidays to do more study, or did you actually find out that the Christmas holidays were just that opportunity to sleep and create recipes and things? Well, could you plan something differently? Often we get a little bit, let's be a bit formal, make yourself a list or make yourself a plan and think, right, what kind of things did you want to do at the beginning? Can you think back to how you felt when you started the module? How many of those did you manage to do? Did you actually think, right, I'm going to stick to the study calendar, or did you think, I'm going to practice my mind mapping, I'm going to do it for the first time? If you didn't do it, is the reason why. We're not saying everybody has to mind map. Absolutely. I find I just can't do mind maps.
No,
it just doesn't work to me.
Prefer a list.
But I have seen some wonderful ones. I've seen some really good. But I like lists because I can tick them off. So have a look, think about different things. If you go to the study skills section from Student Home, there's some really good things. There's a section on reflecting there that can tell you about ways that you can reflect. I mean, if you want something to pin it on, look at the learning outcomes from your module.
Yeah.
So some of those would have been knowledge and understanding, some would have been cognitive skills, some would have been personal skills. Was part of your module learning how to use the word processing software or doing a graph? Did you find that difficult? Could you just have a little practice using the help file of the word processing software or the spreadsheet software? Could you actually have a little go and say, right, I'm going to learn to create that for myself?
Yeah.
I used to do that when I worked in an office at one point, and between letters that I had to type up, everybody else used to sit there and go, and I thought, right, I'm going to look at the help files. And in those days, they did used to have really good ones.
Yeah.
And I taught myself all sorts of things that way because I didn't want to get bored. And I went, oh, look, you can do that. That's really interesting. And that kind of thing saves time in the long run. It's the being proactive and doing a few things to learn them and help you. Because otherwise, when you come to it, when you're trying to learn everything and then you're being told, oh, now you've got to do a graph, and you're like, oh, crumbs, I don't know how to do the graph. And it can get a bit panicky. So that's the bit where in the summer where it's a bit low-key. Don't set yourself loads and loads and loads of goals, because otherwise you're going to feel that you're still studying, and if it's a break, it's a break. But think of a few things that you struggled with, or that you can identify that you wanted to do better. You might not have struggled, but you could think, I didn't get the marks I wanted for that. Can you see why? Go back to your feedback and think, right, okay, I'd like to do that. Or anything else actually you can think that could make your life easier.
Yeah.
So you could, for instance, we'll do them again in September, but we did sessions on time management, and there were sessions like the study intensity. What kind of things can you do to make your life more efficient?
Yeah.
There are things that you can do, like the online shopping or whatever like that, but there's lots of practical things you can do. If you think about them when it's low key, when you're not pressured, it makes life a little bit easier.
But the one thing that is really important is the skills, as you say. Now, we asked people whether they're coming to the writing retreat, and without having told them anything about it, 23% have said yes.
Excellent.
Most of them are unsure, so I think we should tell them what it
That's
is all
a great idea.
because I wouldn't go to a writing retreat that I didn't know anything about.
No.
So we had this idea to do these online sessions and workshops, which were about writing, which are some key skills. And the whole idea around this is to take something very small, something quite unusual, but something that links to assessment. So in psychology, for example, we'll often say, hey, come and design a poster or write a blog and do these sort of different things. And the writing retreat really takes those ideas, but also takes editing students' own work. Now, this is something quite different. So why do you think that this is a good idea for students to sort of dip in and out of, and sort of, I guess it's a more sort of low-key approach to doing something proactive on your writing skills?
Yeah, so the low-key and proactive bit are definitely the bits that are key. I mean, what we want to do is try and sort of showcase some ideas. We've got different types of writing in different sessions. So there may be some that you think, I'm not interested, or yeah, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
It's not just formal writing, it's not just academic writing. We're doing writing for pleasure, or writing for, like writing a letter to your gran, or writing a blog. I think Davin said that he'd done was starting a blog, which is fab. Just getting your words that are up here, trying to work out how to get them out, and like the idea of a poster, giving you some ideas from people that know. We're getting some specific experts in, and then the idea is to chat to each other and share with each other some ideas. It's going to be very low key. It's not going to be like some of our sessions where we're going to be presenting a lot of information, but we're going to be asking for ideas and saying, have you thought of this? And coming up with some different ideas and showcasing, basically. That's probably the best word.
And so I get the whole thing about sort of taking things out of your head and being able to articulate them. That's incredibly important, no matter what subject area you're doing. But I can also see some people thinking, well, why should I learn to write a blog if I have no interest in blogging or posters or anything like that? What is it about this whole idea of reshifting the way that you do things that can free up different ways of being?
Well, I think it relates back to, I did a module once where I'd always done something called the acquisition style of learning, which is about the facts that I get because I'm a scientist and that's the way I like, and I know these facts. And then it was something called participatory learning, and actually learning from other people, doing things with others. And it really opened my eyes because it was so alien to me, and I was like, I don't want to do this, I don't work with other people, I just do my own. And then it was a case of, no, actually, if I talk to Karen, what she got that she can share, and then I could say, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And then I could say, well, because you said that, how about you think about this? And it's sharing with each other. Participatory is very much coming up with ideas. And it might be something you've never thought of, but you might get that little gem that you go, that would really help. That will make my life easier. Yeah. I mean, we're not saying all of them are going to meet everybody, because absolutely some people might not want to write a blog. But everybody probably has looked at a blog in some places. Yeah. And what's what's relevant about those?
Yeah.
What makes them good? What makes them bad?
Yeah.
They're not just a stream of consciousness, let's just shove loads of words down.
Yeah.
They actually have a purpose.
Yeah. Okay, and we've got some academics from the Open University joining us as guest speakers for those sessions, and you can find out all about the programme that we've got lined up on the Student Hub Live website. HJ and Priya, how's everything over there?
Well, getting lots of chats
Yeah.
about lots of different things. Some things are unrelated. We were talking about eating burnt cake,
Yeah,
which
burnt cake, absolutely.
I've heard a lot about burnt toast, but not burnt cake. So I'm not too sure about that one. But we've had Mario join us from Germany, which is fantastic. So we've talked about the weather being here all over the place. I'm wondering what it's like in Germany today. Hopefully a bit better than here.
We've touched on camping as well, haven't we?
And camping, yes, that's what we're doing. So we've got some bad Wi-Fi signal, I've heard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also covered sort of next steps for study in terms of module choices, and we've discussed, if you contact your support team, there might be taster materials to help. It does vary, so you can find their contact details through your student home area. All very helpful, but we're all friendly regardless of what support team, so just pick up the phone and call us. We're here Monday to Friday, 8 to 8 p.m, Saturday 9 to 5.
And Jane's finding it a good time to write in a reflective journal after the module, so thinking about what
That's
to
really
do next.
good.
So I
Yeah.
like that idea, and I think I might need to do some reflection what I've done recently as well.
Yeah.
So that might help.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. And I hear Open Learn's got a mention as well, which has a range of both skills and also content, which is very useful to look at. And we'll be taking a little look at that later. Priya, I hear everyone's filling in their student finance applications at the moment. And yeah, that's quite a big thing at the moment to sort of start getting those in. What's your advice on that?
Yeah, I would just advise, I think they're open now, June time, so apply nice and early so you haven't got the pressure of trying to get all of that sorted. Make sure you've got all your relevant documents. If you're not sure, just give them a call. But if you're a continuing student, it shouldn't really be a problem. It should be a fairly straightforward process. The sooner you register, the sooner you can get your course materials and get stuck in. So that's always really helpful in helping you prepare.
Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, so Isabella then, the Student Hub Live Writing Retreat, that's all online and interactive. How do students take part and what sort of things do they do once they're in there?
So there's a link from the studenthub.live.ac.uk. So there's a number of links. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to find them. So if you read the description, there will be a bit that says the Adobe Connect room. Actually, one of the things that I would recommend if you bookmark that room, it's far easier than trying to go through sometimes. So you come in. So it's through Adobe Connect, which is our online conferencing software, and you can talk on the microphone, you can chat in the chat box, the same kind of things you've been doing to Priya and HJ today. And we'll have slides there as well. So we'll sort of have prompt slides probably. It won't be like a taught tutorial, but we'll have prompt things and we'll be discussing different things. So we'll get people to share their impressions on the microphone or in the chat box. And we'll have lots of polls. We like polls. And I haven't mentioned it yet today. Chocolate comes up in every single session that we always talk about.
Yes, it does, unfortunately. Well, while we eat chocolate. But you don't have to have done anything or do anything, do
No,
you? You can
absolutely
just
not.
come and rock up.
You can come. As long as you've got... Often it's quite useful to have some kind of a headset or headphones, because then you don't get the feedback through the microphone.
Yeah.
Even if that's just a little headphones that you listen to your phone or something on, that's fine. You can have a proper headset. There's some advice, actually. There's a little video you can click on saying accessing the Student Hub Live Adobe Connect room, and have a look at that. But yeah, you just rock up as long as you can hear, whichever format that is. You can do it on a mobile phone.
Yeah.
You can do it on a computer. Obviously, on a mobile phone, it's much smaller, so you can't necessarily see things as well, and you have to do things in a slightly different way. So we always say if people are going to do it on a mobile, have a little look at the guide ahead of time so that you know what to expect. But yeah, just rock up and come and join. We have set times. We'll promote it ahead of time. I think we're normally 8 till 9, and the room's open about a quarter of an hour beforehand, just for people to say hi and make sure their sound's working.
Brilliant, excellent. So what for you over the summer now? Are you finishing marking?
I will be finishing marking towards the end of June, and then I've got a conference that I'm taking part in. And then, interestingly, doing the marking, there's all sorts of things that I thought, right, I want to get these resources ready for my students in September. So all sorts of things, often to do with writing and often to do with the use of language. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to record a little thing about that. I'm going to record a little thing about that and give some guides.
And do you do it?
Well, I haven't done it yet. I hope to. I need to make myself a list, actually, because there's all these things in my head. And again, they need to come out of here and do something, because you're probably going to say, right, Isabella, have you done them? So
I will.
I'll have to be accountable.
That's why I'm not owning up to doing anything.
But I think I'll be spending quite a lot of time in the summer in the garden and growing things and
It
digging and
is.
stuff.
It is important, I think, to have a break. And sometimes, you know, when you finish, you know, students can often think it is a relentless process. The whole sort of 9 months going through, and it's important to have a break. But equally, it's important to give yourself time if you do want to pick up on those things, to carve that time out for yourself.
Yeah.
So to end then, what sort of advice would you give to students to sort of, once they sort of have reflected and maybe identified a couple of things, how might they actually make sure they try and deliver what they want to do for themselves?
Well, this idea of making yourself some kind of a list, or be accountable to somebody. If you've got a study buddy, we haven't talked about that today, but we often talk about study buddies. If you've got somebody, say to them, I'll say, Karen, I want to be able to use these words correctly. I know I get them muddled up a lot. If I say to you, can you check up on me at a certain point, I'll be accountable to you. And then if you come and say, well, Isabella, have you done that? I'll be like, or I might say, yay, I've done it. So that's quite a good way. If you haven't got somebody that you can be accountable for, that's absolutely fine. Some people like working with us, some people don't. Or have a list, pin it up on your fridge or somewhere, and have it all where your study place is, and be able to tick off that actually I wanted to try this. And then think about, when you tick it off, how well you've done it. Was it actually a realistic goal? Or was it something where you think, well, actually, I spent a bit of time looking at that, don't think it's really helped?
Well, this is the thing, because it's things like write better, critically evaluate, all those sort of things can end up being very unhelpful words on the list.
Absolutely. So make sure you operationalise them. How are you going to write better? I'm going to write better because I'm going to form my sentences more clearly. Or I'm going to make sure I know how to reference from my module. Or I'm going to write better because I've struggled with paragraphs and I put a whole series of sentences down and they're not really neatly together. I'm going to look at the study skills section on paragraphing, and I'm going to practice. Doesn't have to be on anything scientific. Maybe use one of your previous essays and go, actually, I want to rejig that and I want to try and make that, and go, actually, I think that flows a lot better. Reading it out loud, this kind of things. Giving yourself a specific target. Don't give yourself a woolly target. Something that you can specifically know when you've done it.
And I think that will be so nice about our editing masterclasses, where we invite students to bring a piece of work they've already done, because students will often say, well, show me a brilliant essay, show me a brilliant paragraph. And you can, but it's very difficult to learn from doing something like that, because you don't, I guess, appreciate how to do it. It's that graft of actually pulling apart and putting back together. So having something you've written yourself and then being able to reflect and think, how could I make that better, is probably going to be more useful than reading all the fabulous journal articles that are well written.
Absolutely, because somebody, and again, when students are using work, you've got your module materials. Sometimes you go, well, how do I write it in my own words? Because it's like, well, because you need to express yourself to show your understanding. The person who's written it knows what they're talking about, but you've got to make sure you're collecting the key information and writing it in a way that makes sense, that shows that you know why it's the key information. It's not just because it was there. So practicing that on anything, you could take a newspaper article and you can say, right, there's this half-a-page newspaper article. I want to summarise that in 200 words. Think about that kind of thing. Set yourself targets with anything, or write an essay about chocolate, anything like that.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's fantastic, Isabella. Thank you so much. Some really solid advice there. And I'm going to find out how you've got on over the summer with your own goals. And I hope that's given you some food for thought at home as well, and cake, so that you can start thinking about what might suit you over the summer. And as I say, do check out the essay writing workshop on the Student Hub Live homepage, and you can find out about each of those sessions, which you can drop in and out of as you wish over the summer. Right, we're going to have a little video now, which is a campus tour, and Dan Weinbrin is going to be showing us around some of the various buildings of the campus. So we're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be back to look at moving on from access modules with John and George. I'll see you in a few minutes.